Planet Dolan.
From dealing with classroom bullies to letting kids play video games, the Planet Dolan crew reenacts some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the coolest things we've seen teachers do. I'm Doopy, and today I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by E4Epic. When Melissa was in the 4th grade, her and a friend found a baby bird who'd fallen out of its nest near the playground. So they put it in her friend's hat and took it to class after recess. When the teacher saw everybody in the class around them, the teacher naturally became suspicious. When she came over and saw Melissa and her friend with the featherless baby bird with 3 twigs and a leaf in a hat, she became upset at first, but then made them give it to her. The next day of class, she had it in one of those small, plastic pet containers you put hermit crabs in, with pretty legit looking bedding, a small light bulb for warmth, and cloth as a blanket. She made it the class project for everyone to take care of it, and she would take it home with her. A few weeks later, when it had all of its feathers and the teacher had helped it learn how to fly, Melissa and her class let it go at recess and watched it fly away. They later learned that from its color patterns, it was a starling. Number 9 was submitted by Dinaron. So, McKylum had a few cool teachers in high school and late middle school, but there was one that sticks out from the rest. His name was Dr. Owen. He was his 11th grade writer's workshop teacher and his 12th grade AP Lit teacher. He was one of the coolest mofos ever. First off, if you could make a good argument that applies to the entire class, he wouldn't assign homework, although no one ever succeeded. Throughout McKylum's 11th grade year, he learned more about Dr. Owen. He found out he has a book published. It's academic stuff, but it's still pretty rare for a high school teacher. Then he found out that Dr. Owen was in a band and has done solo work. He never performed for McKylum in his class despite asking. Then, McKylum did some extracurricular for extra credit. It was like a cool beat poetry night. Then, at the end of it all, Dr. Owen finally played one of his songs. It was way cool. Then after he played a song or two, he said, "I had these lying around, so help yourself, guys." And now McKylum has one of his albums. Number 8 was submitted by Domoriski. In Ladybot's math class, the phone kept ringing and it was getting really annoying. Especially to her teacher who was, trying to teach for Pete's sake. There was a test the next day, so he didn't have time for class to keep being interrupted. So he promised that the next time it interrupted him, he would smash it on the floor and break it. He was probably just joking until the phone rang again and he threw it across their room. It was the most beautiful thing Ladybot's class has ever seen. Number 7 was submitted by Jasmine Lily 12. The coolest thing Nixiom saw a teacher do was throw a book at a student. He was in the 4th grade when they were reading something in their science book, when a kid named Tyler started to act like a little prick. He started to pick on a girl in the middle of him and Nixiom. Tyler was saying some really mean shit. All of a sudden, the teacher said, "Hey kids, I'm going to show you a demonstration of the law of motion," or something like that, and threw it at Tyler, who was never a little prick again. Number 6 was submitted by Wolfdare. In high school, Helpin had a math teacher. He was always chill and got along with everyone, but there were kids who were dressed in skimpy clothes or had their pants below their ankles. Note that these were the whitest kids you would ever find, and they were ridiculous. After being sent to the office, these kids only got a slap on the wrist and sent back to class. Helpin's teacher had enough, so he bought a ton of belts, t-shirts, and sweatpants. Every time a student was either dressed like a hoe or a gangster, his teacher would hand them a belt, shirt, or sweatpants and send them to the bathroom. He said, "You can get an F and sit outside, or get changed." That year, Helpin's class got passing grades. Number 5 was submitted by AwesomeACK. Tulip's high school history teacher named Mr. Callahan used to be the lead guitarist for a band called Burn the Ballroom. One day, he brought his electric guitar into class and started playing different tunes to what they were learning. He also played a song he wrote called Fire Breather for the class. He was the best and coolest teacher Tulip ever had. Number 4 was submitted by Tech-It Girl 105. There was one teacher that Dolan had who did a lot of amazing things for his students, but one time in particular, he saw that all of his game designer students were feeling under the weather, so he had the class pass around several USBs. All of these contained Unreal Tournament 3, and after every computer was finished downloading the game, Dolan and his classmates spent the rest of the class laughing and playfully shouting at each other while playing together. After that day, every time the class's morale was low, Dolan's teacher would triumphantly stand up and say, "You all have 5 minutes to finish working and save your progress. We're playing video games today." Sadly, due to how strict and old-fashioned the high school was, he ended up quitting. Dolan's teacher treated his students as actual people with actual lives outside of school, and he had a massive success rate for his classes. Number 3 was submitted by Flairidescent. When Sacred Snoopy was in 6th grade, there was a bully named Edward. He usually stole things from people, harassed girls, and started fights. One day, Sacred Snoopy and her class were in social studies, and her teacher was writing on the board. Edward was having an argument with another student about shoes because they were that important to him. So when the teacher was done with the useless arguing, she turned around and asked what was so important that they had to interrupt the lesson. Edward said that the other student couldn't afford shoes, and he needed to point that out. Then Sacred Snoopy's teacher said to him, "Well, you can't afford soap, but no one else is complaining." Sacred Snoopy is pretty sure she saw that kid dab, and everyone was pretty much screaming as her teacher turned around and continued with the lesson. Number 2 was submitted by Wolfman Thomas. Once, Sweet Commando had a substitute teacher in senior year for government class who was in the army, and 2 of his classmates who were in a relationship got into a fight, with the boy threatening his girlfriend right in front of the sub. The sub quickly got involved. The asshole Romeo talked back at the teacher, who replied, "How about you shut the fuck up?" and escorted the asshole to the principal's office. Needless to say, everyone in class wanted to get on his good side after that. Number 1 was submitted by me. So in the 9th grade, me and my friend had a creative writings class with a teacher named Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper was the coolest guy. He was so chill and down to earth, and we could talk to him about anything. All he had us do in class was write a prompt and then basically take the entire class off. We only had 8 students in the class, which made it even more fun. Eventually, he had to actually give us work, and since we were used to not doing work, a lot of the students in the class didn't listen to him, and he lost his temper and became unchill really fast, but I never looked down on him for it. I knew he was just doing his job. He was really a cool guy. I had a dream of him once where he was a ruler of a planet and came to invade Earth, and his name was Coop Nasty, and so me and my friends started calling him Coop Nasty, and he totally just went along with it, and he had no idea what we were talking about. He responded to Coop Nasty for a very long time, and even after we didn't have this class anymore, we would go by and say hi and talk to him, and yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. I kinda miss him. I wonder what he's up to these days. Huge thanks to the folks over on our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What was the most disturbing thing that's ever happened to you on a bus? Let us know in the Reddit page link below, and you might be featured in a future countdown. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Hard for him to do well in school, and even though he was typically a good student, his grades had fallen due to a lack of sleep. His mom took him to a sleep specialist, but his results somehow got mixed up with someone else's, and the study was deemed inconclusive.